Recording.
Okay, so I'd like to start this meeting today, which is really about organizing the VCI group for 2020 anyway, and we'll see where that goes, with some brief introductions just to make sure that everyone knows each other and to share why we chose to come to this meeting. We sent the agenda out. You've got a really good idea about what the meeting is about. So just your name, where you're from, and why you chose to come to this meeting. And I'm going to start. So I'm Ann Mitchell. I live in Delray Beach, Florida, which is a coastal community that seems to not be taking climate change nearly as seriously as I would have thought they would. And I wanted to join this particular group because honestly, I'm really nosy. So I want to know what's going on in all the other groups in real time. And I kind of like this background organizing thing, and I see this group as being kind of in the background and doing a bunch of organizing. So that's why I'm here. All right. Who would like to go next?
I will volunteer because I'm about to join Jackie in cooking while listening to you guys. So my name's Nolan. And I'm participating because I met everyone, well, except for Jorge and Sylvie. I've met, how long has it been now? Basically, I really like you guys, and I like the work that everyone here is doing. And I am very excited about the potential of collective intelligence and enjoy kind of being more of a background character in this context and seeing what you guys are up to in the vegan world. So that's about it.
Excellent, Nolan, welcome. Silas, we're just going around one by one and introducing ourselves and sharing a short phrase about why we chose to come to this particular.
I can go next. I'm Suzanne King. Kind of like Anne, I get really excited about organization and operations, and I also really like big picture type work. So I'm hoping that this Vegan Collective Intelligence group is the place for me to be able to use those skills and interests to help VeganWorld 2026 as a whole.
Welcome, Suzanne. I'm Benjamin. I'm interested in a lot of those things too, as well as the idea of collective intelligence and social technologies. And I'm also interested in a whole lot of the topics within VeganWorld 2026 and kind of see this as an opportunity to help VeganWorld 2026 work effectively at whatever scale it's currently in, and work effectively in making the transformation that needs to happen.
Oh, and real quickly, I'm going to be taking notes, so if you see me, I am paying attention and just trying to take notes too.
Thank you. And just so everyone knows, Benjamin, Suzanne, and I are going to attempt to co-facilitate this group, and we will accept and welcome any assistance from anybody else. So just so that you know, who might want to share next?
Okay, I'll go next. I love coming to this meeting because it helps me realize that there are so many people working on this together. You know, I have actually had an epiphany yesterday. You know, we were flying a kite with my granddaughter, and at the end of that, the string got all messed up. You know, and I was trying to unravel it and put it back, and I was having a hard time doing it by myself. But someone else came along, and then when 2 hands, 3 hands, 4 hands got together, it unraveled immediately. So it told me that, you know, we are in this together, and when we work together, nothing can stop us. So you guys give me a lot of energy, and I love coming to this meeting because of that.
Excellent, welcome. Jamin.
Beautiful. Well, first I want to acknowledge Silas for bringing this all together and your amazing leadership. I'm here because I love all of you. I love the whole vegan community that Silas brought together. And also I love collective intelligence. And for me, the three big pillars are collective intelligence, veganism, and radiation management. So here in this meeting, it's the intersection of two of those. And VeganWorld 2026 is also a big supporter of SRM. So for me, it just checks all the check boxes. Delighted to be here.
Welcome, welcome.
Great to see you there.
Here because Jamin invited us over. Thank you, Jamin.
Wow.
And these meetings are really important because we hear a lot of collective trauma and collective subconscious, but there's also collective intelligence, and it's our opportunity to really put that into action, because the intelligence part means that other than we are intelligent persons, that we can be intelligently co-creating together, not just like being intelligent, each one of us doing our own project. So that's a real challenge that specifically addresses a collective trauma in Mexico, that we're very good to do things individually. You can see it in sports, no? We have the best boxers, the best marathon runners, but not really teamwork. So, yeah, like this for me is an opportunity to heal that collective trauma of my home country and learn from all of you, because this is an accumulated intelligence. It makes bigger than the sum of the parts, right? Thank you all for the opportunity.
Okay,
Welcome.
I'll just add to this. For me, it's also important, very important to connect with all of you, especially because we've been trying to get something like to organize, to connect to other vegans during the last 2 years. And it's very hard. Like if you just force it, it doesn't happen. But finding such a group is such a treasure. And also, like what Silas said before, like many hands make light work in a way. So being more than just two, like everyone has different skills to bring to the team, and together we can just achieve so much more.
Welcome, welcome.
I'll go real quickly. Hi, my name is Jackie. I'm here because my work is with children, and it's about preserving and protecting the ecosystem in which children develop. And so this group is a culmination of basically what I do on a very smaller scale in the inner cities and underserved communities, where we have to look at a grander perspective of the system that is keeping them oppressed and in that mentality of lack and unworthiness. So this being part of this community and this group informs my work. And so I can contribute to the greater good and the greater, and then I can inform myself so I can go and help the people that are still in the system.
That's beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
My name is Ray. I work with Sailesh on the VeganWorld 2026 base camp, which is kind of, I described as an online think tank with a bunch of different topics, knocking down all those obstacles that'll get us eventually to a vegan world by 2026. And because there's so many conversations going on at the same time, I know that eventually we're going to reach a position where we become this big dragon that one side doesn't know what the other side is doing. There's all this information being collected. How do we make use of it? How do we keep informed of what's going on? And I think collective intelligence is going to help at the macro level for our organization, but also for the broader vegan community. They're all coming up with great ideas all over the world, and the more that they buy into this collective intelligence concept, the more that we're able to exist as an entity and come up with great ideas that are shared. Getting the ideas is half the battle. Like getting the idea out to people is important as well.
All right, excellent. And Nancy, would you like to introduce yourself and share? I think you're still muted.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes, beautiful.
Hi, everybody. Some familiar faces. We're supposed to say why we're here, why we joined this group, because you're all so fabulous. I like hanging around with fabulous people, and we're passionate. And I was, thinking like how passion alone, it can end up being very misguided, and we really need to collectively, use our intelligence, and it's really important that we're intelligent with our activism, not just passionate or because I'm right, therefore whatever I say goes, And the idea that when we can alone, we can maybe go further together, and that's so true. So thank you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. It looks to me like Dharmendra dropped off. Is that true, Dharmendra? Are you not here? Looks like maybe he'll come back. So hopefully he will come back. Okay, so I wanted to take just a couple of minutes to kind of help us get centered before we get into the agenda, and simply take 2 or 3 minutes to breathe deeply and to think about the highest potential for this gathering. So for the next hour and a half, we're going to be talking about this particular group and how it can be of service to VeganWorld 2026. And so I would just like to ask everyone, if possible, and it may not be possible for everyone, but to sit with feet on the floor, back straight. If you're comfortable, to close your eyes, rest your hands on the top of your thighs or with your hands kind of cradled in your lap. And we're just going to take a few deep breaths. And as we inhale, we'll kind of stretch up, and as we exhale, we'll kind of release down and allow our spines to stretch and then decompress. And just take 3 deep breaths. And then allow your breathing to return to normal. And allow your minds to empty of all of the other things that happened today. So just let them all go. Just let them float off like clouds in the sky. And just reflect as you breathe very naturally on what you would like to accomplish during this meeting, what your intention is, what you think your highest purpose is in this gathering of people. We just heard some beautiful reasons for why we have all chosen to be a part of this. So let's just breathe for a moment and let that intention settle. So I'm going to give us a minute or 2, literally, in silence, to breathe and think about what we want to accomplish here tonight. And I'll be back in just a moment. And if other thoughts have started to force their way back into your mind or other images are popping up, just let them go one more time. Just let them go. And center yourself in this particular group at this particular moment in time. Now let's go ahead and bring ourselves back to the space, open our eyes, and we'll move forward. So welcome, everyone. And the first point of on the agenda is the idea that we wanted to just expand the title of the group a little bit to Vegan World 2026, Vegan World 2026 Collective Intelligence, simply so that we are very clear that we are working toward a vegan world by the year 2026, and that this particular group exists in order to support the work of the whole of Vegan World 2026. Does anyone want to have any conversation about that idea? Are there any questions, comments, thoughts, clarifications? And Myra, thank you. Welcome. Okay, we will go ahead and move on to the second agenda item. So we think that it will be very important for us to have a document that helps to lay out what this group is going to do and how it's going to work. And so we put together some ideas, and we put these ideas together based on last week's meeting and conversations that we've had ever since we started doing the VCI meetings. And put a lot of thought, a lot of time into these things. So we have come up with a number of goals and a number of process points. So I'd like to go through each of the goals first, and then we'll talk about the processes, and then we'll talk about how we will actually populate this document and get it back out to everyone. So the goals as we currently understand them, there are 5 main goals. The first is to gather and disseminate monthly status updates from each of the groups, whether they're task forces or study groups inside Vegan World, excuse me, in 2026. And we'll collect that information on a monthly basis. We'll put it into a newsletter, a single document. We'll send that document out to everyone in Basecamp, and we will archive it both within Basecamp and probably within the Climate Healers website. Some of that will be determined as we begin working on all of these. The second goal is to gather and make available information on methodologies that will support the work of the task forces and study groups. So we know that there are a lot of social technologies. There is a lot of information that is available, but it's everywhere. So we thought that if we were able to pull together some methodologies, put them in one place and say, you know, if this is what you want to do, if you want to effectively facilitate a conversation with 100 people, here's some ways you might consider to do that. If you want to organize a group and you want to do it in the most inclusive way possible, here are some methodologies that might work for that. If you want to think about the way that we have conversation, whether it's between 2 people or a much larger group, here's nonviolent communication as a very specific example, and some things to learn from that. So we wanted to have a library of sorts that we would gather all of that information and links to additional information. And then we also wanted to pull together tutorials on lots of different subjects. So we might have a tutorial on Aquarius and invite people to come and talk to us about what that's about. Or we might want to have a tutorial on sociocracy. Or we might want to have, you know, again, there's lots of things that we could do tutorials about. And so we would, of course, record those. There would be a live presentation with questions and answers, and then it would be recorded for people to be able to come back and look at. We wanted to be the master calendar keepers. So all of the meetings would be on a master calendar. All of the, tutorials would be on a master calendar, or the webinars, whatever it is, and that calendar would be both available inside Basecamp and outside to a larger audience. And then we also wanted to model the ideals of institutional transparency and personal privacy, and to do that respecting people's time. So those were the goals. And I wanted to ask, are there any additional goals that we missed, that we did not think about, that we talked about last week or at another point in time, or that anyone has thought about in between that we need to add? And do those goals seem reasonable? Does that seem to reflect what you remember that we have talked about?
Hello?
Yes, Nancy.
Forgive if this has been brought up, but I know that on the calls I've been on so far, there have been some people that were not vegan. And I know you want to be inclusive. And do we have a set way of like dealing with that? Because I don't think the calls or these meetings should be a place to try to explain what veganism is and why it's important, but still be a place welcome for people who aren't or who are vegan curious. Has that been discussed?
I don't think that we have discussed it in this particular meeting. At least I don't remember having discussed it. I think that might be a question that we want to add to the process group, to have the process group take a look at that and decide or offer a possibility on how we might handle that. Is there anyone else who has another idea or remembers a conversation that we had that I don't remember? Okay.
I don't remember speaking about it specifically, but I think it's a good idea to at least have a discussion around it and come up with something.
Yeah, and I think in the process, I think it belongs in the process group. I mean, we know, I mean, we didn't specifically state it here, but the goal of VeganWorld 2026 is to have a vegan world by 2026. Whether or not every person who joins Basecamp or who joins this particular group needs to be vegan before they join, I think that's a process conversation to have in a little bit more detail.
You have made the title even more vegan implicit. I would probably compare this to a church service where the doors are open to anybody to attend. You don't have to be a dyed-in-the-wool Pentecostal to go into a Pentecostal church. Just understand that the conversation is going to be very Pentecostal while you're there. So it's, but very welcoming. Shouldn't be of the tone that it sounds like we're out to get non-vegans. You know, there's should be an understanding that anybody could be non-vegan in the group, and we should mind our P's and Q's to a degree.
Yeah, and it reminds me of a very short story. The Animal Recovery Mission is an investigatory group that does undercover investigations in slaughterhouses and animal factory farms, and they very specifically do not require people to be vegan when they start working for them. They don't even ask the question, because their point is that you can't do that work and continue to eat like when you start doing the investigations, you will become vegan because it's just impossible not to. And it may be that by joining VeganWorld 2026 and being a part of all of this work, the same kind of thing is going to happen. But again, I think this takes a little bit more thoughtfulness than we can do on this call. So I'd like to add that to the process group. All right. Any other issues that we need to add?
I want to add something. I don't know if such a document or documentation already exists, but in order not to explain every time what veganism is, like maybe what we understand as veganism as the group or as the vegan world, because I think our vegan definition is a bit more than just saying, okay, we eat that way or that way and we don't consume animals. Like we have this 7 core shift principle, and I think maybe that people who come in, whether they're vegan or not already, that they must have an understanding of this. And if someone is not yet vegan, maybe an idea would be also if they need help or if they need support to have a mentor, like someone wants to guide them or help them a little bit if they want. That could be like in the process to become vegan.
Yeah, and that's a great idea. And there are some other groups that offer vegan mentors. So, like, do we do that within VeganWorld 2026, or do we connect with an organization that already has a mentoring program available? So, again, I think these are really good things to add to our conversation in the work groups. All right. And anything else?
Yeah, specifically the point that Sylvie mentioned is that not only for vegans is this necessary. I mean, it's also necessary for vegans because vegans can join or are already joining these study groups and these meetings. But what I understand that Sylvie said is that the job is not done by being vegan. You know, like we need to understand that VeganWorld 2026 involves the 7 core shifts, which mostly any vegan I know can check mark all of them and say, I am completely transitioned. So to make that very, very clear for vegans and pre-vegans, that this is not only the regular vegan understanding, it is like the next step that involves the social evolution of the planet.
The veganism 2.0.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole transformation, not just what we eat or what we wear, but the whole of VeganWorld 2026 needs to be communicated and needs to be clear in the work that we're doing. Yeah, that's a really good point.
One thing I often see forgotten is actually the official definition of veganism. And the Vegan Society has a great one. I don't think we have to necessarily stick with that, but I think it's a great either one to use or because that gets lost a lot. And I find that it's true, vegan has been associated with diet, and it's really important to understand that it's really like a consciousness in a way, you know. It's like a really major internal overhaul. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Again, it's about the full transformation, not just about what we eat, and not just about our use of animals, but also the way that we think about the planet, the way that we think about each other, the way that we think about the economy. I mean, all of those transformations, that the 7 core transformations that are listed on the website. So the question is, how does that need to inform our process on this particular group? And so I think that's a question. And so the question isn't just about dietary veganism. The question is about how do we incorporate the 7 core transformations into the process of this group to make that clear. And then there's a bigger question that's being asked that I'm not sure this group can answer, which is how do we do that for all of the groups? How do we make sure? And do we need to make sure? I don't know. But it's a great process question to spend some time thinking about. So thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the process question. Those are the goals. So that was a great segue into the processes. Here are the things that we are proposing that we consider. The first is that we use something called sociocracy. And Jorge and Sylvia, I want to thank you very much for bringing the ideas of sociocracy up to us. And I gave a very short definition in the agenda. I'd like to read it right now. Sociocracy is a whole systems approach to designing and leading organizations. It is based on principles, methods, and a structure that create a resilient and coherent system. It relies on transparency, inclusiveness, and accountability to increase harmony, effectiveness, and productivity in groups. And Jorge has shared some videos about the use of sociocracy for more casual or volunteer groups, in addition to the work that's been done in organizations. So some of us have had a chance to take a look and see some of that, and everyone will have the opportunity to do so. But we'd like the process group to think about using sociocracy, and we'll learn what that means and how to apply it as we move forward. The second process is that our Zoom meetings would eventually be live broadcasts, either through Facebook or the Climate Healers website, so that it could not only be available to everyone on Basecamp, but to anyone who wants to see what it is that's going on. And so we need to figure out how to make that happen. We talked about future membership of this group and how that would happen. And last week we talked about having someone observe 3 meetings and then maybe submit something about why they want to join before they're actually able to join, and thinking that there will probably be a lot of people who observe and then join a work group or a task force or do something else, but don't necessarily join this group. But this group would be the place where you could see everything that's going on within VeganWorld 2026. Hi, Kamaya. Good to see you. So that would be another thing that we would want to do. The monthly status updates would be sent to Basecamp via newsletter and then archived. Oh, I'm reading the wrong thing. Sorry about that. And we want to make sure that that information is also available to anyone inside or outside of Basecamp, so that we're not hoarding any information in any way. And then that the VCI tool library is also available to everyone. So we've got to figure out some of the how-tos with the library, the newsletter, the promoting the meeting live in different formats, or however that's going to happen. Are there other process? Now, we've already added a process question about the 7 core transformations that we need to make sure that we are thinking about as we do all of the work that we do. Are there other process questions that we need to add to the process group? Okay, cool. All right, so.
I am gonna ask a question, and maybe sociocracy handles this, but so for our first agenda item about changing the title of this group to VeganWorld 2026 Collective Intelligence, since no one brought up any questions or clarifications, does that mean that proposal has passed, or do I just make a note that there weren't any questions on it? Is that something that sociocracy deals with, or how do we, maybe we can discuss this at the end, but I guess that would be process related to this meeting and future meetings too.
So I don't know if I should answer now or later, whatever you want.
I'd like you to answer now, Jorge. That would be great.
Okay, so first of all, we all need to know who we are, right? And I think that that's the most important part of the process, to understand who we are. We are a pop-up community. We're a bunch of volunteers. Like, put that in a couple of sentences. The name part, running already a sociocracy process, it would be a proposal. This is a proposal to change our name, right? So the person that is presenting that proposal needs to send it out before the meeting, so everybody is aware. So that part, check, right? Everybody received the agenda, so everybody knew about it. Then when everybody's gathered, the first thing is, hey, okay, so there's this proposal that everybody got on their email in the agenda. So let's do a round of quick reactions to it. So you have to respect the order of hearing everybody out to say a quick reaction. It doesn't have to be like a whole conversation or a monologue. It's just like, yeah, it sounds good to me, you know, like very short, no? Or I don't understand it really. Then everybody has a say. And then there's a round of clarifying questions. What does changing the name involve? You know, like, okay, so anybody has any clarifying question about this proposal? So that's the round where everybody says, so does this mean that we are going to let everybody know that we changed their name, and what's the meaning about it, and how does that really affect us in our future meetings? You know, to make clarifying questions. So when everybody gets a chance to make their clarifying questions, then depending on the proposal, you can say, okay, so it seems quite straightforward that we want to change the name, and this is the way that we're going to do it, and these are all the reasons why. So is everybody agreeing right now to do a round of consent with reservations, with concerns, or object? So all of this is again in a round, and it's noted. Okay, so these many consents with concerns, and these many I don't want to move forward. So in that way, you are avoiding making a decision just by majority. You know, every voice is heard. So what usually is done next when there's these reservations or concerns, or people saying, no, this name sucks, no, I don't want it, it doesn't go with me, I feel bad being in this meeting again if it's called like that. So you say, okay, it sounds like there's an agreement in the majority of the group. How about running it with this name for the next 3 months? So for everyone, is this something good enough for now, safe enough to try it? That's a very magical wording, you know, because it doesn't make it like written on stone is forever, and it's an imposition to especially people that don't want it. So in a log, you can say the proposal presented by this person on this date was voted, or like showing the 3 elements, no? By so many people, and we're gonna test run it for the next 3 months, and it's going to be reviewed in 3 months to see how everybody feels about putting into action for the next 3 months. And it's going to be reviewed in 3 months. So this is just like an example, no, of how sociocracy deals with these proposals. I don't know if that helped Suzanne and everyone.
Yeah, so Jorge, I mean, honestly, I think this is a great time to actually do that about the name change, because we're about to ask people to volunteer to work on 5 work groups and to come back with proposals to this group on 5 different issues. So if we practice this right now on the name change, then next week or the week after, or when people have time to get that work done, we will already have had 1 round of having done this process. And while I did some work on sociocracy, I am not, nearly well versed enough, and I tried to weave some of it into the agenda. I would love to practice this. So let me ask 2 questions. Are people good with practicing this on the name change and taking a few extra minutes to do that? And then I'd like to open it up and ask each person to reflect on changing the name from the Vegan Collective Intelligence to VeganWorld 2026 Collective Intelligence. And so now I'd like to hear from everyone, to open it up to everyone to give a word or a phrase about that.
This would be called the quick reaction, like just short, yes.
A quick reaction, okay. All right.
I think it totally reflects us. I go for it. I think it's lovely.
I'm in agreement here too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I like it.
I like it too.
Oops. Nancy, I wasn't sure what your hand signal meant. Oh, you need to unmute. Oh, you're, okay. Meaning that you're in favor.
Sorry. Yeah, I guess I'll go back a little bit. Like, woo, yeah.
Your internet, I think, was cutting out a little bit, and so your hand stopped, and so I wasn't sure if you were saying slow down, stop, or if you were saying you were in favor, so I wanted to check on that. Okay. And who else are we missing?
I'm in favor.
Is that Myra?
Yes.
Welcome, welcome, thank you. And Sylvie and Jamin?
I'm good with it.
Yeah, it sounds good because it clarifies that it's a Vegan World 2026 collective intelligence as opposed to a less defined intelligence.
So is this really John McDougall? sorry for asking, but I just see the photo.
Say hello, Chloe.
Hello?
That's John McDougall and his granddaughter.
Welcome.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Welcome.
So anyway, I thought I'd say hello.
Well, we're very happy to have you.
I'll let you take a look at my granddaughter. All right, are you ready? Say hello, Chloe.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello.
Hello?
Say hello, Logan.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. Okie dokie. Anyway, yeah, I thought I would just stop by and say hello. I wrote you an email, told you I was going to be on Coast to Coast. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Salish, I sent you an email. I'm going to be on Coast to Coast on the 22nd.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. So that's awesome.
So I don't know how loud you want to announce it to your group, but I'll be talking about the things that we've been talking about. And, you know, my hope is to get you on the same show sometime in the near future.
That's wonderful.
But it goes to millions of people. It's on 600 radio stations. So if any of your followers around the North America continent, or probably maybe Canada, want to listen, they just have to go to Coast and find out what station they can listen to, and I'll be live. It'll be a pretty good show.
Is that January 22nd?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's January 22nd.
Okay,
It's
excellent.
the George Norrie Show, which is probably the biggest talk radio show in the world.
Excellent. Congratulations.
But George, well, I go on all the time, but George is not an easy person to deal with when it comes to diet. So it's not going to be an easy interview. So anyway, I'm going to do what I can. George himself is overweight and has diabetes. And we've been talking about this for about 5 or maybe 7 years. You know, how to get himself well. And even though he's a really smart guy, very conservative, and you know, he just doesn't seem to get it in terms of his own personal health. So I don't expect much more from concerning diet in any subject matter. But hey, we'll get the message out.
Excellent. We're looking forward to watching or to listening to that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've spent a half a century doing publicity, so it's something I'm pretty familiar with. Anyway.
Thank you for joining us.
Well, I'll just listen if I could.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'll be glad to do whatever input you'd like. I just kind of came to listen.
So this is a meeting where we're figuring out what this group exactly is going to do to support the work of VeganWorld 2026 as a whole. And we're learning about an organizing method called sociocracy. And we were just about to literally take a vote about a name change. And I think we finished the conversation. So now what we need to have is the actual vote, with everyone either giving a thumbs up because they're good to go with it, thumb to the side if there are concerns, or a thumb down, or you could say those words if you're not on camera so that we can make a decision. So we've got thumbs up.
Actually, isn't it important to, if we're making a recording, that we should say something so that the yellow bar shows that we're on camera? That's a way of recording.
Sure, absolutely. It's a great process thing. Okay, so people one by one should say thumbs up, thumbs to the side, or thumbs down. Thank you. Yep.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up here.
Thumbs up here. Good.
Okay, I'm the party pooper. It's called consent. Consent with concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Against.
Okay.
Objections. So all of this needs to be written down. Well, but this is a good practice.
Okay. Consent.
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 I'll let you mute her.
Okay, so then it would be specified if we want to try this for the next 3 months or it's a permanent thing. Usually there's nothing permanent in sociocracy. So if it's something that really doesn't need to be discussed every 3 months, then you set it up for an annual review. So after a year you say, hey, okay, a year has been behind us and this name seems to be working. Do we need to put it in a new proposal of a new name? If there's no proposal, then it goes automatically. So everybody is viewing this log every time and they know, okay, there's this thing open for review. So if there's somebody that wants to make a proposal, they should present it prior to the review date.
Yeah, that sounds very, it sounds to me like in sociocracy also, someone could come up with a proposal. If we said, we're going to do this for the next year, but in August, someone wants to propose a new name, they would propose a new name, right? I mean, there's nothing preventing someone from coming up with another proposal.
Yeah, correct. Like if it's something that really moves someone to say, okay, I need to make a proposal about this. Yeah, like it needs to have its own process and very concise, the reason, so there's not a big discussion. Yeah, like a clear proposal. But usually you need to have this review by this date to make a proposal. That's the most perfect way to do this. Yes.
Okay, excellent. So we also obviously need to work on a way to get the consent or to get the decision from each person in a way that's a little bit easier to follow through, since we're not in one room together and can't just go around the table. We'll work on how to do that. But thank you, Jorge. Thank you for walking us through that. Oh. Does someone have a question? Did I?
Real quick, I unfortunately do have to run, but very excited about what's happening in this meeting today. And thank you guys for being so organized and thoughtful. And I'm looking forward to watching the recording later.
Excellent. Thank you, Nolan. Dr. McDougall, can you mute your microphone?
I can't. I can't. I'll tell you what, I'll just sign out.
No, you don't have to sign out, John. I can
You don't want to do that.
No, I've kind of lost you, but here, I can find.
No, I can mute you. There you go. Okay, John muted himself, so that's good.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so the next thing that we want to talk about are these work groups that we would like to have people volunteer to gather this information and to come back to us with a proposal. And the first group, and again, these are possible. The work can change. The details can change about any of these things. The first that I wanted to talk about were the monthly status updates. So that would include, at a minimum, creating email invitations to send to the study groups and task forces to have someone from those groups join this group. It would be creating a monthly newsletter format, so we have the same format. We know what it is, how we're going to populate that every month. It would look the same, and creating a file folder in the VeganWorld 2026 group in order to archive all of that. There may be lots more information. Are there any people on this call right now that want to participate and take that task on? Suzanne. Okay. So
I have background in print and graphic design, and I'm really good with writing text and things like that. So certainly something like a newsletter, I'd be great at helping out. I'd love to. Did you hear me?
Excellent. We missed the very first part, but by the last part, we were getting you, and you want to participate, and you're good at writing newsletters. We got that. So yes, we will put your name down and get back with you about that. Excellent. All right. Anyone else?
Oh.
Okay. Then the second group that we wanted to talk about was the VCI tool library. And Jorge has already put together a couple of things. So we've got a format that we can follow. And the VCI tool library, the list of tasks would be creating a list of the potential social technologies and methodologies that might be useful to Basecamp users, to begin to gather the summaries and links to populate the library, to create a folder in VeganWorld 2026 to archive, and creating an invitation for all the Basecamp members who may have expertise or know about methodologies that we want to include. And again, there might be more things. Are there questions that we need to talk about? And are there people that would like to participate at putting this work together?
Are we aware that our sign-up survey for the VeganWorld 2026 has some of those questions on it? They're asking, what sort of skills do you have that you can share?
So we could look at that and target people specifically based on the survey results. I had forgotten that was on the survey. Ray, who has those surveys?
It's on a spreadsheet. We, Benjamin and Suzanne and I have access to it.
Oh, cool. Okay, so we can take a look at that and reach out to people specifically to add some of that information. All right, is there anyone who wants to participate in putting this tool library together? Okay, Jorge, excellent. Okay, and I'm interested, so we can start there and see what else we can come up with.
I have that Basecamp itself is going to be one of those tools, so I guess I'll
excellent.
I'm training people how Basecamp works, so
excellent.
It fits in there.
Perfect. Okay, the third work group would be the tutorials.
David and I are raising our hands too.
Oh, okay.
Got it. And you're on mute. I don't know if you were saying something.
Yes, sorry about that. I said, is there anyone else or any other questions? Okay, then the third work group that we looked at was tutorials, creating a list of potential topics for tutorials, identifying people to provide those tutorials inside Basecamp and beyond Basecamp. Is there anyone that's interested in working on that particular work group? Okay, Sailesh wants to work on that. Excellent. All right, and I'm interested in working on that, so that's good. And I know we have some ideas for some people that we want to do tutorials already. All right, the next work group is the calendar, and that includes creating a calendar that can be used within Basecamp and can be disseminated outside of Basecamp, proposing a process for how to populate it and keep it accurate and updated. And that's going to be a moving part. Is there anyone who, Benjamin is interested? Okay. And Jamin, okay. Anybody else interested in working on the calendar? Okay, and the last group that we wanted to have a work group for is the process proposal, and that's creating a proposal for this group to use to govern itself. And we're already proposing that we use sociocracy, and people need to do a little bit more work on understanding that. And there would be a lot of work done about teaching us how to use sociocracy. And it would include lots of things like how do we go around the group since we're not in the same room and get people to participate in a timely fashion and in a way that we can actually take notes? How are we going to keep note of who was here and for which meetings, especially if we end up needing to have some sort of review of people who observe for a number of meetings. So there'll be different kinds of tasks that we need to keep track of. Who would like to work on the process proposal? Okay, Jorge, Suzanne. Oh, and Jackie, excellent. Okay.
I have a question about that.
Yes.
Because this needs to be consented by all of the study groups and all of the task force. Like it's something that they are presented the idea. So far I understand that group leader should be part of the VeganWorld 2026 collective intelligence, right? Like that's the first step, to get a representative of each study group and
a representative, right?
A representative. Is that true? Is that right? What I understand, that a representative of each group is going to be part of this.
Yes, we're going to invite a representative from every other task force and study group to be a part of this, at least to give the status updates every month.
Okay, because if you get this representative, they should know that they're going to be presented this idea, so they present it to their group. And they can say, okay, this makes sense to us, let's go for it. And who's going to learn about it? Ideally everyone, but realistically the representative. Because unless we do everybody joins in one Zoom meeting, which is going to be kind of chaotic, I think.
Right.
Or maybe that's where the library will come to use, because people are going to be able to go and learn it by themselves. I don't know, we need to discuss this, because it's a matter of not imposing a governance. Like, they need to be exposed to the idea and then choose if they want it. Ideally, all of the groups would need to be on board. so this works smoothly. So everybody knows how to run the meetings and how to report them to the Vegan World 2026 Collective Intelligence Group.
So I think this is a really big question, Jorge, and I think we need to have a fair amount of conversation about it because, yeah, I mean, there are already a number of groups, and you're right. We don't want to impose a methodology for how to organize each of those groups, but they all need to know how we're organizing this group so that they can contribute the information. And yeah, I mean, there needs to be this very big picture look at the whole thing, right? Because we've got already 300 people as a part of VeganWorld 2026, and then a different number of people in all of these groups. This is the group that's trying to provide some sort of organization to the whole, and to be a place where each of those groups can share the information about what they're doing, what they're planning to do, and what kind of problems they're having with it. So I think this process group is going to end up needing to have a lot of conversation, and it may be that it's going to be the last one that presents to the whole group, because we need to have these other people as a part of the group before we can present the information, if that's making sense. And I don't think we need to make all those decisions today. I think that the process group can have a lot of detailed conversation about it and bring that back to this group, either along the way or as part of the proposal that it makes.
That sounds good. And I think it's going to naturally happen anyway within each of the smaller groups. They're going to end up, you know, within the nature stewardship group, we've already started talking about sociocracy ourselves. So I think, you know, it may just end up happening naturally there too.
Yeah, and it may end up moving across to all of the groups. But I see the issue with not imposing this on each of the groups, but each of the groups needing to understand what it's all about. So I think we can work that out. I think we can figure it out. We didn't want to put very specific timelines because we weren't sure about some of these things, but we want to be working on these, you know, as soon as reasonably possible without saying there's a deadline of this date or that date. So are there questions or comments or clarifications about the timeline and when and how people should be getting together on any of these groups? Go ahead.
I'm wondering if there's any distinction between study groups and task forces. Partially because a study group, by its nature, is to study. If people are getting involved in a group and they're contributing knowledge to a particular topic, is there a different process for when they've got something to report, something, you know, some sort of culmination? And part of it might be just taking a while to, as groups get started, just start accumulating information, maybe in the docs and folders or in the message groups, answering the questions. And maybe that's a distinction as well. The questions that were proposed at the VeganWorld 2026 conference that are in each of the groups' message board. Is there a mandate to check those all off? Is it, are any of these things making distinctions between different groups?
I think that's another great question to add to the monthly status update group.
Yeah, if I might just interject here, the name study group and task forces came from the way the Internet Committee was run. And there, the distinction was that the purpose of the study group was to study the problem and then determine whether a task force is necessary or not for implementing it. Okay, so the purpose of the study group is to become a task force. So they would then come to this group, and so they have a certain set of criteria they need to meet to show that they need to be authorized as a task force. And once they become authorized as a task force by the larger group, then they have they have to come up with a white paper or something like that as their work product, so that it becomes something that we publish as part of VeganWorld 2026. That this is our work. This is our recommendation for how you do this. So that was how it was run in that group, and it worked very well. So we had a process, and so it was called the project authorization request process. And it's only when the project authorization request process was met that a study group became a task force. And then once it's a task force, then everyone in Basecamp is agreeing to consider the white paper that the task force is going to come up with and comment on it and make sure that it's in alignment with the rest of the group, with the rest of the other work product from our VeganWorld 2026 Basecamp.
So do you have that process in writing that you can share with us, or?
It's like 20 odd years old. I'll look it up and see if I can find it.
And who would authorize the movement from a study group to a task force?
This group.
This group.
So, yeah, this group would do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So this will be one of our jobs, is to move study groups into task forces and then make sure that the task forces are completing their work and so on.
Okay.
It is inherent in the name that study group is about, pulling the information together. Task force is going out and doing something.
Right.
Empowered with that information. So I think it's kind of there in the words itself. My question was, obviously if the group is publishing a white paper, that's something to report to this group. Is there an onus for every group that has members that are doing something to report to this group, to have their intelligence collected?
I would think that having an update from a group, so the nature study group, to have an update that says, this is these are the things that we're looking at. These are the conversations that we're having. And, we aren't at the point of writing the white paper yet, but these are the conversations that we're having. I would think that would be helpful to the VeganWorld 2026 as a whole, to have an idea of what each of the study groups is doing.
Right. Yeah. We had that requirement actually, that every study group or every task force authorized by the group had to come up with at least a 5-minute or 2-minute update every quarter. Okay, so that we have an idea that it is still functioning and it is still ongoing. Because sometimes study groups become defunct. They don't participate anymore. They don't study anymore because they're done with that. They don't think it's part of that there is interest in the market.
Right, and I would also guess that sometimes a study group or two study groups end up merging.
Yes, they do that.
I mean, there would be all sorts of different things that as they learn more about the thing that they're studying, that they either go away, they merge with someone, or they become a task force.
Right.
And it would be impossible for the full organization to know about that unless there was a place to report it out.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And so we called for a monthly status update. Perhaps it's not monthly. Perhaps it is quarterly. That group can talk about that.
That's what we were doing in the, because we had, we were meeting physically, right, during the Internet Standards Committee. We were meeting physically, so you couldn't do it once a month.
Right, right.
Now we can do it once a month. So we can accelerate the process because of the Internet.
Right, exactly. Okay, that's helpful. All right, hey, Suzanne, you were taking notes about who is on each of the groups. Can you just read that out so that everyone hears it again. And if anyone wants to join another work group, they have another opportunity to do so. It looks like Shankar joined us, and perhaps he wants to join something that.
Yeah, great, we'll do. I'm gonna start at the top. The first one we talked about was monthly status updates, and convening the data that we collect in this VCI meeting and disseminating it and making it available to everyone. Nancy and I have volunteered to be on that work group. Do you think I should pause in between each one or go through all of them?
Let's take a really short pause and just say, is there anyone else who wants to join this group?
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one, which is the VCI tool library that will gather methodologies and social technologies and archive these tool summaries and resources for everyone to access. The volunteers on that group that I have is Jorge, Anne, Benjamin, Ray, and Jamin. Is there anyone else that would like to join?
Can you explain what is that group about?
So
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna let Anne do some explanation there.
So that the tool library will be a place where we can have social technologies or methodologies archived, so that when people want to do something in a study group, a task force, in a climate healers group, they would have a place where they could go to find some resources to support them. So for example, someone is going to show a documentary screening and they want to do a conversation after that screening, and they're expecting 60 people to come. And they want to facilitate a conversation with those 60 people. And so they could go to this tool library, and the World Cafe will be listed as a methodology to support large conversations. And they could look there, they could find additional resources online, they could find a facilitator, they could do all sorts of things, just to use one example. And we think there are lots and lots of places, of types of methodologies that might come up. So sociocracy, in terms of an organizing methodology, would be housed in the library. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much for the information.
I'm going to move on to the next work group, which is on tutorials. A list of potential topics for tutorials and to identify people to provide the tutorials from within Basecamp and beyond. Dr. Rao and Anne have volunteered for that work group. I'm also interested. I'm going to put my name down there.
I would also be interested. I'm just wondering, do you have to be tech savvy or somehow knowing how to technical webinar or like computer things?
No.
You know, obviously I know how to run my computer. Okay, none. Okay, then I would also be interested.
Awesome, great. We'll wait a second for anyone else.
I think I'll join that as well, because as I mentioned, one of the tools is Basecamp itself, so if that fits better into this category, I'll join that one as well.
Great. And Ray, you can let me know if you think you'd rather be there than the VCI tool library or both. I have you down there now too. The next group is the calendar group, making sure that our schedules are transparent and we can include as many people as possible among base campers and the public, and keeping that accurate and updated. Benjamin and Jamin have volunteered for that work group. I'll probably be working with Benjamin too, but technically I think he'll be better at that. Although I might, I don't want to get on too many work groups. Anyone else? Okay, the last one is the process proposal work group. We've mentioned a lot of potential process to talk about tonight. So far, Jorge, Jackie, and myself have volunteered for that, or that's all that I have on the list. If anyone else would like to join that process.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to be on that group too.
Yes.
Put me also on that group, please.
Yes, Shankar here. I would like to be also in that group.
Great. So I have Shankar, and then I'm sorry, I wasn't on the right screen. Myra, was that you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was me.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect. So we have the work groups populated. We'll send out a note to everyone here with that list to make sure that everyone knows which groups they signed up for. And if you would like to add or change, you're welcome to let us know that and do that. So the next meeting is scheduled for next Tuesday. Does everyone want to meet and give status updates on the work of the work groups between now and next Tuesday? Does that make sense to everyone? It's a regularly scheduled meeting. So yes, okay. All right. Is there anything else, any other conversation, any other comments, clarifications, questions, anything about any of the things that we have talked about tonight? Or this afternoon if you're on the West Coast?
This is Myra again, and I would like to see if there's any possibility that we can make up a group of Spanish-speaking people, so I can add members from our organization. And as I know that Dr. Sailesh is going to be doing a tour in the United States this year, so maybe we can get people capacitated in order for Sailesh maybe to consider going on a tour on Mexico states, and maybe going down to Central America and South America, because the Spanish language is fluent in all southern, central, and Mexico. So just so this can be more expanding, let me know if that is an option, or if it's something that it can be discussed in this particular group.
I just want to say I love the idea, and I'd love to participate with you. I'm bilingual, and I'm sure Jorge and Sylvie would back me up on this. There's tremendous potential in Latin America generally, and in Spanish-speaking cultures for collective intelligence. We Spanish speakers love to talk, and we love to work together in groups. So anyway, I just wanted to thank you for that, Myra. And,
well, so that actually brings up another question about the possibility for another work group right now, and that is, so a Spanish-speaking group is one of the potential groups, but should we have a process or a conversation about adding other language groups to VeganWorld 2026, and how would we go about doing that? And is this a time, should we start talking about that now, or is that something that we should put off? I'm not sure. I guess, Sailesh, I'm looking to you and possibly Ray to think about how we would manage that, because there's lots of languages, right?
Yeah, right now, if we organize a tour of Latin America and South America, I would need someone to help with translation, because I'm not very fluent in Spanish. if I have to do that speaking. But yeah, there's Jamin. Jamin. So if Jamin and I tour together, I think we can pull this off.
So I mean, that is a fabulous idea. And do we want to have a group that works on putting that together, or do we just want to, or is that something that goes outside of this group, that happens outside of this group?
I mean, Myra wants to start a group like that. I would love that. You know, I don't know if when I can schedule something like that. Maybe it'll be after this tour is over. Maybe in September, October, we could do something like that. So Central America, South America tour.
Well, talking about a tour within Mexico, Central, South America, that will be something within the future, maybe next year.
Mm-hmm.
However, initiating a group for people to get informed of why VeganWorld 2026.
Right.
And if I have the support of Jamin and Jorge, since they are the experts more than me, because I was recently ovo-lacto-vegetarian, so my information with the veganism, it's small. They are more capacitated within all this, because you guys have been having meetings this last month. And if we can make a group with the same title as this one, and if I can get that support, I will definitely start inviting members from our organization, and even not, it doesn't necessarily has to be members from the UGF net. It can be any type of people, Spanish speaking, basically, because I know for many people, even here in the United States, they're so limited with English speaking, but they need this information.
Right.
They need to be informed. And this needs to be expanded. 3 of the language, and I know there is many languages out there, but 3 of the main languages used in the UN is French, Spanish, and English. As long as you know those 3 languages, you can travel all around the world, because French, English, and Spanish is used in every country.
Right.
So Myra, I have a question. Are you talking about setting up an internet group, an internet-based group that is Spanish-speaking inside VeganWorld 2026, that's Spanish-speaking, or are you speaking about setting up a Climate Healers physical group someplace in Mexico or South America?
No, something in Zoom, exactly like we're doing it right now.
Yep. Okay.
Just with Spanish speaking and bilingual also, people that they can support it. Like, for example, we have a lot of members that they're in Florida, they're in LA, they're already vegan, and I'm pretty sure they can also come into the group and support, just so we can get that information out there. But no, definitely for Vegan World 2026, because pretty much that covers also within the Climate Healers end.
Right.
Right. Right. Excellent. So to start that group, you and Jamin would work on that, and Ray, would you also? Is that just another study group or task force group?
I could help set up a task force.
Right. I would assume that you would need to translate the survey into Spanish so that people can join appropriately. And then you would have to also probably, some of our webinars have to be translated into Spanish so that people understand what we are doing. Because some of the movies already have Spanish subtitles, but the webinars don't at the moment.
You know, I'm not sure whether what the etiquette is here, but I just wanted to add, one of my books that is a pure vegan book is called The Starch Solution, and that is a really good translation into Spanish. Plus, I work with a man in Argentina who's very knowledgeable about this and very interested in the whole subject, and of course is a very fluent Spanish speaker. So anyway, if you're interested at all, you'd find that book with the translation in Spanish on my website. And we're also developing a whole bunch of Spanish because we think it's an important market. we also have some Chinese connections too. But, you know, I'm going to have to leave. I'm sorry. But thank you for letting me join your meeting.
Oh, thank you so much for coming.
So if I can help, let me know.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us, Dr. McDougall.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Jorge, I'm pretty sure that you were raising your hand.
Yeah. This is related to the multilingual proposal. I have been thinking about something that might be a little ambitious, but come on, like we're talking about the vegan world 2026, so let's be dreamful. Like we joined the marches for the Fridays for Future, as well as so many other people. And one of the things that I really regret was not seeing more indigenous people being reached for this discourse, no? Like, oh, the indigenous people are dying in the front lines and they're defending the nature, but there's hardly any outreach to them, you know? Like for them, veganism is something like they don't even think about it. But Sylvia and I came from Ecuador, and a very good experience, and we found this First Nation woman from there, like indigenous and woman in a Latin country. It is like going against two tides, no? They have a very bad position, but she was Quechua, she is Quechua, and since she was born, she was exposed to the traditional killing of animals to make the meals, because women do that, no, in these towns. And since she was really young, she said, I don't want to kill any animals. She didn't know about veganism, not even heard the word. And many years later, like woman, indigenous, and then divorced. So she was like I'm sorry for talking about this like this, but in her society, she was like less than zero. And she was left with 2 kids. And the husband went for getting dollars to the United States, never came back. She got divorced. And now she runs one of the best whole food plant-based restaurants in Quito. And of course, she like plans the food in her family town, where they kill animals and they use animals' parts for fertilizing. Like, it's not perfect, but considering the situation she came from, she has done great. And she's so full of light. And she was being brought to, I think, to Oregon for a university to talk about what she's doing. And she was learning English, you know. She has this life force, like wanting to go through borders. And I would like to say that whatever I do, it's like reciprocating that, like to reach for them, to meet with them. And maybe Zapotec, Quechua, Maya, Nahuatl are things that we never think about, but it's very necessary because of what we say, no? Oh, these people are dying defending the trees and defending the lakes. Yeah, but like, where's our intent to go and meet them? So I don't know if that can be joined to this multilingual dream. Thank you.
Thank you for taking all the.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of need to branch outside of the English language and to reach out to people that have not traditionally been approached. So I'm certainly looking forward to see where this is going to go. This is beautiful, just really, really beautiful. All right, so we'll add that as another work group within VCI at the moment, it will probably become its own thing fairly quickly, but that's great. All right, any other questions, comments? Oh, Jamin, sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to, we had mentioned last week about forming an SRM task force, and I just wanted to get a quick showing of hands because I'd love to lead that or be part of the leadership of that. Can I just get a quick showing of hands of who's interested in that task force, an SRM group task force? It'll
And this is
Vegan reflection group?
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the vegan reflection group. Yeah.
Yeah, Ray started the vegan reflection group. I saw it, so I'm sorry, Jamin. I assumed when I saw that that group had been started, I assumed that because it's populated with a number of people.
Okay.
So it is a group within VeganWorld 2026, and there are a number of people signed up for it.
Okay.
And it just made its way onto the sign up survey too. So we'll be getting people from outside as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Hi, Melissa. Welcome.
It's so good to see you. Buenas. I'm sorry I'm jumping in so late, but I was in the center of Mexico City. And hi, Jackie. One thing we've been talking about doing here when you're talking about multi-language and vegan is doing classes in Mexico, art and English. And I think we could do cooking as well. Art, cooking, and language. And to introduce the idea of veganism here, and we're going to do this. We're not just talking about it, we are going to do this. So, and I read the survey also, beautiful. I haven't answered it completely yet, but the one thing I found missing is artful activism. There's nothing there about art. Art is so healing. I don't know my schedule yet, but I would be happy to sort of help spearhead that if you guys think that would be a good way of, you know, kind of continuing the work. And if anyone likes to join me.
And it needs a leader.
Yeah. Well, I could probably take that on, but let me just kind of wrap my mind around that, my spirit, and then I'll get back to you guys. Is that okay? And good. Love you all.
Love you too.
It's called revolution through art and culture.
Yeah. And language. Language, the language of food, the language of culture, the language of words, creating new languages. And we could take that really far, you know. And
that's great, yeah.
And Ray, did you say that group already exists within VeganWorld?
It does already exist, and we haven't put it onto the, we were just in the process of putting it onto the sign-up survey.
And I love Melissa's use of artful activism as a phrase. I think that would be a nice, you know, part of the description.
Yes. Yeah, that would be beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
we're going to build some big installations here in Mexico. My daughter's boyfriend's from Jalapa in Veracruz, so we're going to be building with him. We're going to be working with indigenous peoples, symbols of the Azteca and the Maya, and bring our cultures together, and doing ritual, doing ceremony, using oil, hands-on engagement with the público, you know, with the public. Lots of really rich ideas. So I'm very excited about that.
Sounds amazing.
That is really beautiful. Really beautiful. I happen to belong to a group, a Facebook group called The Art of Social Change. And it just made me think about the art of vegan change or the art of vegan transformation. I don't know. There's lots of things to play with and have some fun with, because we need art desperately in this movement.
Yeah. Beautiful, Anne. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anything else before we wrap up tonight? Are there any other questions, comments, clarifications? Yes, Ray.
Has the nature of this meeting changed? Is it still a public meeting that anybody can join, or is it now an executive meeting of the groups that exist? And a lot of the conversations about collective intelligence shifted over to the vegan reflection group.
That's a great question.
And one of the reasons why I'm asking is because there's a possibility that John McDougall may have tuned into this meeting wanting to ask questions about collective intelligence, but there wasn't a platform for him to do so.
Well, one of the purposes of sociocracy is to have very well identified objectives for meetings, and meetings shouldn't go beyond 30 minutes. For example, about status, the status meeting, 30 minutes. And then after those 30 minutes, continuously another 30 minutes for proposals. So the idea is for people not to have to be part of the full hour if they just want to be present for the status one, you know? And the proposals might be passed on by their group leader or representative. So yeah, that's another advantage for using sociocracy in all of the groups. I don't know if that was like useful for the question, Ray.
Right, and again, I think this is a question for the process group to really get into. We had talked last week about the idea that people wouldn't, in the future, just join this group. They would observe 3 times, figure out whether or not this was something that they really wanted to participate in, and then we would figure out some way, you know, maybe with a statement, maybe with a conversation, that then they would be approved to join. So I think this is a process group question to come back and figure that out and have that as part of the proposal that we
There
made.
wasn't a quick answer in there that it is indeed the vegan reflection group that would field people's questions about collective intelligence?
I don't think we may have to talk about it, but I think that is going to be the idea. Is there may be some discussion of collective intelligence within this group,
or in the tool library, or
in the tool library, but then another group, specifically vegan reflection, where the longer form conversations can happen. I think is that what you're talking about, Ray?
Yeah. In previous weeks, this conversation has had people kind of dropping in, dropping out, and sometimes people want to know about collective intelligence. They're starting out from scratch. We recognize that when there's new people in the group, and may adapt our language to go, oh, by the way, what we mean about a collective intelligence or solar management is, you know, just kind of recognize that there's somebody who's walked into the room and may need to have some clarity. Is this still a public group? We advertise it to everybody in the base camp?
Again, I think that's a question that goes to the process group to answer and to come back with a proposal about how that's going to work. I don't think that we answer it this second. I think it goes to that group, and that group has a conversation about it and comes back with a proposal. So I don't know the answer to that question right now, and I don't feel comfortable saying it's this or that at this point.
I think for me that means as of now it is public until we decide otherwise, but if people feel differently, then
right, we're not making any change until we have a proposal. I'm sorry. So yeah, so as of right now, I mean, there's 40 people or something, I don't remember the number, signed on to this group. And so any of them coming, and if someone else signs up on the study sheet and comes, by the time we get to the proposal from the process group, we'll understand that. But yes, I would certainly agree that we're not making any change until we have that proposal.
Well, one thing to draw attention to, the sign-up survey itself has a description of this group, and that's one of the reasons why people have signed up for it. So if the definition of this group or the purpose of this group has changed, then that would probably have to change as well. So something to put in.
Right, and when it's all worked out, then we can do that. Was there someone else speaking? Did I miss something?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, excellent. Well, I'd like to close the meeting with every person having the opportunity to just share a word or a phrase about their experience of our time together. So just to go around the room, go around the internet, and share, again, a word, a phrase, a sentence about the experience of this meeting tonight, so that we can all kind of check in and check out. Who'd like to start? Okay, Jorge.
Moving forward.
Great. Jamin.
Efficient, powerful, inspiring, and unifying.
Beautiful. Sylvie.
So we're done with this circle here. I don't know if you want to go last. Well structured, well prepared, and therefore very efficient, and yeah, moving forward indeed.
All right, thank you. Melissa, you want to jump in there since we're... All right. Who's next? Nancy?
Respectful, intelligent collaboration. And I'm really glad we kept it to 2 hours.
I'll go next.
Oh, go ahead, Jack.
Sorry, Benjamin. Just the 2 words that come to mind are grateful and manifestation.
Thank you.
I was going to say inspiring and productive.
Focus and collaboration.
Yeah, Shankar here. I would say collective, organic, and I missed probably the first few parts, so I would like to catch up later and gain some clarity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you very much.
Myra, do you want to jump in here? You're still muted. You need to unmute.
There we go. I keep my camera off because it's the time where I cook, and I was doing cooking while I was listening to others. But anyways, I would like to say definitely unification, very wise, amazing, and using that right part of the left part of our hemisphere is amazing. And I see this a lot. The right side, sorry, not the left side. Thank you.
Thank you. So I would like to say that I am very grateful for everyone to come to this meeting, to volunteer, to work on the work groups, and to hang in there with us as we learn a new way of organizing this particular group and the work that we're about to do. And I'm really looking forward to what we're going to accomplish in the coming months. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will see you next week at the same time. All right, good night.
Thank you, Anne.
Jamin, I sent